Good afternoon and welcome back to Girded with Truth. Thank you so much for joining us today as we begin our brand new series, The Trauma of Better. Everyone is always telling you to rise up, do better, get to your purpose, get in alignment with God, get into the will of God, but nobody talks about the trauma of better. Today we're talking about why am I here? Each and every one of us has a purpose. And getting into purpose, getting into alignment with God is hard. We have to overcome certain things. We have to deal with the issues of the past. We have to deal with us when we look at getting into better. And oftentimes it's very traumatic heading into our future, heading into better. There's an uncertainty with it, and trusting God is never easy. Even though we like to believe that, even though we put our faith and our hope and our trust in God, that does not mean it's easy. But nevertheless, we purpose ourselves to getting all that life has for us. So therefore, that means we have to get into the purpose that God has for us. And that means that we do not settle for where we are, but we head towards what God has for us. But today we want to deal with what does it mean when we are heading into better. There is a trauma attached to being better that we are going to deal with today. Why am I here? I am here simply because God chose me. God decided to snatch me out of a life where I was living beneath my potential and show me what that potential would look like and put me in a place where I can pursue that potential. So God has given us a promise. Whatever that promise looks like for each and every one of us may be different, but He has given us a promise, and we begin to pursue this promise. And when we have reached the point where we are about to grab hold of this promise, we have to change our entire selves completely. We will still be us, but we have to change our mindsets. We have to change the way we look at things, the way we perceive things. We have to live differently in order to live in this promised life, because all the time we have just been surviving, and now we have reached a place of success. And now we have to change how we once viewed life. Exodus chapter 14 verses 11 to 13 says, "And they said unto Moses, Because there was no graves in Egypt, thou hast taken us away to die in the wilderness. Wherefore hast thou dealt thus with us, to carry us forth out of Egypt? Is not this the word that he did tell thee in Egypt, saying, Let us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians? For it has been better for us to serve the Egyptians than that we should die in the wilderness. And Moses said unto the people, Fear ye not, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will show to you today. For the Egyptians whom you have seen today, ye will see them again no more forever." So God has called Moses, and he called Moses to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. And now they have been delivered from the Egyptians, and they were glad. But when they have reached a point where they have seen an obstacle, where they have seen a situation facing them, where they can go no further, but the Egyptians are in hot pursuit of them, they decided to complain. They decided that, Moses, you bring us all the way out here to die? But whatever the promise God has given to you, whether it's in the middle, whether you are on the brink of breakthrough, God will not allow you to die. You just have to trust Him. Trust the process. Trust what He is doing in your life, and you would see the breakthrough. You would see the tremendous work of God. You would see what the enemy has been trying to keep you back from all along. So now they are here. They are seeing where they are headed, but they are also seeing their past. And you have to be willing to cut off the things of the past that is hindering you from going into your destiny, from going into your future, because that would just simply hold you back. There are certain things you have to remember, how God took care of you, how God provided for you, but you have to use it for fuel to continue in the journey. You cannot allow these things to become a hindrance to your future. You have to leave the suffering of the past in the past and use the lessons you learned as fuel into your destiny. You are here because God placed you here. You are here because God sees better for your life, because He has a purpose for you, and He's establishing this purpose in you and through you. So you have to stand still, like Moses said, and see the salvation of the Lord, because whatever situation, whatever problems, whatever obstacles are in your way today, they will never be there again. You will forever be delivered from this. 1 Kings 19 verses 9 to 13 says, And he came thither unto a cave and lodged there, and behold, the word of the Lord came to him, and he said unto him, What doest thou here, Elijah? And he said, I have been very jealous for the God of hosts, for the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, thrown down thine altars, and slain thy prophets with the sword. And I, even I only, am left, and they seek my life to take it away. And he said, Go forth and stand upon the mount before the Lord. And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind rent the mountains, and brake in pieces the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind, and after the wind an earthquake. But the Lord was not in the earthquake, and after the earthquake a fire. But the Lord was not in the fire, and after the fire a still small voice. And it was so, when Elijah heard it, that he wrapped his face in his mantle, and went out and stood in the entering of the cave. And behold, there came a voice unto him, and he said, What doest thou here, Elijah? And he said, I have been very jealous for the Lord God of hosts, because the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, thrown down thine altars, and slain thy prophets with the sword. And I, even I only, am left, and they seek my life to take it away. And the Lord said unto him, Go, return on thy way to the wilderness of Damascus, and when thou comest, anoint Hazael to be king over Syria, and Jehu the son of Nimshi shalt thou anoint to be king over Israel, and Elisha the son of Shaphat of Abel-Meholah shalt thou anoint to be prophet in thy room. So here, this is Elijah. Now, there's a series of events happening in Elijah's life. So Elijah was sent by God to declare drought on the land. He spoke to Ahab, said drought was going to happen. Drought took place. God took Elijah and placed him by a brook. But during the drought, the brook dried up. And when the brook dried up, God sent Elijah to a widow woman's house where she would sustain Elijah. After he went by this woman, God spoke to him and told him, okay, go back to Ahab and tell him I am going to send rain. Now when Elijah declared that unto Ahab, Jezreel told Elijah by the next day he would be dead. Elijah now picks up himself and begins to run from Jezreel and hides in a cave. Now this is the same Elijah that called fire down from heaven. But when the anointing of God lifts, when you raise up from being filled with the power of God to deal with your regular everyday life, you are just still a person, a man with feelings, with situations, with a mindset that has you look at what someone says instead of the God you serve. And a lot of times, sometimes we turn away from what God said to the situations that we are encountering. And now after Elijah has run and he hides in a cave, the Lord comes to him and say, well, Elijah, what you doing here? Elijah was asking himself the same question, why am I here? Because after he had declared rain, he believed Jezreel that he would be dead, and he ran from her. And he was not able to enjoy the rain. He was not able to enjoy the abundance. He was not able to enjoy the fruit of what God had declared over the land, because it was a traumatic experience, because he was dwelling in drought for so long that he did not know how to deal with better. So Elijah was facing the trauma of better. So now he runs and God comes to him and say, "What you doing here?" And Elijah said, "Listen, I am jealous because your people have bowed down to Baal. So I'm really jealous because of you." So he's saying, based on our relationship, I have this connection to you, and so I am greatly jealous for you because of you. And everybody else have bowed down to Baal, and I alone have remained. And then God tells Elijah, "Go and stand on the mount." When Elijah goes to stand on the mount, there was an earthquake, there was wind, and there was fire. But God was in neither of those things. He was in the still small voice. Why did God do this? Because he was teaching Elijah a lesson. Do not listen to these circumstances and the situations that you are focused on. Do not focus on the storm, because I will not speak to you in that. I would come after that and speak to you. And this is the principle that God exhibited in Elijah's life. But he wanted to know that Elijah would stand still and not run again as he ran from Jezreel. And he would stand in the situation to do what God said. And so many of us face these struggles today, where we focus on the wind, where we focus on the earthquake, where we focus on the storms and the rumors and the wars and all the diversity of things. But God is saying, focus on me. Yes, the road to better is traumatic. Yes, Elijah would have turned aside. And God would have said, "Okay, Elijah, it's okay. I have kept 7,000 prophets, but now it's time for you to get back on your path. Now that we deal with your trauma, it's time to move on." And so many of us, God is calling away from the trauma of our past, and he's saying, get into your better. He's saying, focus on me. He's saying, get out of the wilderness because your trying period is over, and get back on the path that I have assigned you to. God is saying, get past the trauma of better and actually get into better. God has forged a path for us. He has committed to our destiny, to our future, and it is time for us to commit. Why am I here? I am here because God ordained it, because God chose me, because God called me forth, and I cannot allow the trauma of better to prevent me from getting into my destiny. So arise, shine, for the light has come, because God has called you into better. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful afternoon. Bye.